It's just over a year that the entire world has been battling COVID-19. The coronavirus has changed all aspects of our lives, how we work, interact with one another, and what we do in our spare time. For most people around the world, sport is a way to while away time, and fans are the backbone of this industry worth billions. But sporting codes have had to adapt to life in COVID times, and most telling is the absence of fans at venues. This will form part of our discussion this afternoon. How will sport adapt to the new way of operating, particularly when it comes to sponsorship and revenue? A very good afternoon. I'm Morena Mutupi, and this is Inside Sport. Right, let me give a warm welcome to my guest this afternoon. Ray Langa is the newly appointed Managing Director of Levergy. Mike Sharman is co-founder of MatchKit, and Jean Villers is the MD of Nielsen Sports Africa. Gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time, and welcome to Inside Sport. Ray, I'm going to start with you, since of course you are the newly appointed man at Levergy, and you've somewhat hit the ground running. Are we going to find a way to adapt to the new normal, as we now call it, particularly in sport and particularly when it comes to, generating revenue? We have just today the Soweto Derby, where 22 players are going to be playing in front of empty seats.
Morena, firstly, thanks so much for having me on the show. Such an honor. I believe that we really have adapted. I think when the pandemic hit us, we were in a position of a bit of panic. And I think the biggest thing for us was making sure that we found a way to continue that engagement with fans. Because I think that's the most important thing right now, is that we were very spoiled. We got to be in stadiums, and right now we put a little bit on the back foot. So it was really up to us as agencies, and together with the rights holders and the sponsors that are involved, is how do we keep that engagement going? And I believe that we've done a really, really good job. The way we delivered ourselves, especially if you look at everything that's happening on broadcast around the world, especially from the likes of the NBA, the way the Premier Soccer League has gone about things, the way we executed for the Nedbank Cup final in terms of using various innovative and new tactics to keep the fans engaged, to keep them really involved in the action the whole time. So yes, it is different. We know it's not what we all want. We all crave that feeling, that excitement of being in a stadium. But I believe that we're definitely ticking the boxes and moving in the right direction of a new innovative way to actually enjoy sports, even when things get back to normal in the future.
Mike, Ray says that we have adapted. And I mean, obviously, if you're looking at the way different kinds of codes have had to think out of the box, you're looking at how races particularly have gone virtual, and that they've tried to find, in a way, a means to generate some kind of income so that it's not just really them doing things for free. But that generation of income, it's not what it used to be when things were done, physically. So will we ever get to a point where we're making money in the new normal as we used to? And I say we as in the sport industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think that one of the stats that I saw recently was that the predicted losses on sport were around the $62 billion mark, and that related to players, actual sporting stadia, etc. And that was the one gap that we spotted last year in June, where we said, let's go live with a product where we can help athletes better commercialize their personal brands. And we took MatchKit.co to market in a time where we want to elevate the players, because they are the most valuable aspect and assets of the sporting world. If you think about the Netflix effect, where we are obsessed with Save the Last Dance, we're obsessed with Drive to Survive and Formula One now because of the intimate relationships with those drivers, that's where the commercial opportunities exist. And for us, we've been quite fortunate to actually having done a deal with the USA swimming team recently. We're making some great strides in South American rugby and looking at unlocking new commercial vehicles in developing and emerging markets. So that's what we're excited about, is elevating the player from a MatchKit.co perspective.
Jean, is the new normal sustainable? Can we actually, continue to be able to think out of the box? Is there a limit to thinking out of the box and making sure that sport goes to different heights under this new normal?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think it's going to be a very difficult one, and the tricky part about it is that we can't predict what's going to happen. That's probably the bottom line of it. We all can look at the future and say we hope this is going to happen and we hope that's going to happen, but clearly as COVID has shown us that every week can be different. And so sport and agencies and the rights holders and the brands have got to constantly be very flexible with regards to what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen next month, where in the past we've been kind of set. We know that, we're working towards a Soweto derby or we're working towards an Nedbank Cup final. And so, it's been this long planning process. And that's probably going to be the biggest thing that if you're going to come out of it, you're going to have to be flexible. The agencies and the brands are going to have to make quick decisions on their feet. Levergy have done a great job, and Mark and the Match Kit guys from an agency point of view. I mean, you've got really good agencies, in South Africa that are trying to be as flexible as possible. The biggest thing is the rights holders and the brands are going to have to buy into that, and they're going to have to make decisions. An hour, 2 hours before the game, we're going to change an activation, or something happens and we're going to have to, adapt our whole strategy to certain scenarios that might play out on the day or in the week leading up to it. So flexibility is going to be key in 2021 because of this massive uncertainty that we don't know what's going to happen next week.
Ray, how big has the loss been to the agency industry, particularly the sports agency industry? Everybody has lost under COVID-19 in just the last 12 months. And, there's predictions that we're going to go into a third wave, particularly probably even a fourth wave as well. So how big has the loss been? And is the agency industry prepared, to go through more waves of COVID-19?
Look, Morena, 2020 was a really rough year across the board, across our industry. And I'm glad that John mentioned that we all have to think on our feet, because that's exactly what got us through this. And us as agencies, we're constantly throwing out ideas because we need to stay ahead of the curve. But that in partnership with the rights holders and obviously the brands that sponsor the certain tournaments, that we need them to come to the party as well, because it's about their bravery. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I think where things started off when the pandemic hit us initially, a lot of brands and a lot of rights holders were very scared to do anything. I think the whole energy behind it was let's wait it out, and I think slowly but surely they realized that we can't do that. From a commercial point of view, the amount of funds that were being lost, and we weren't able to tick brand objectives anymore because we're just keeping silent, and we really invested so much financially into these various industries. So for us, it's a matter of trying to stay ahead of the game as much as we can. We know it's going to be more of the same. We can't foresee what's going to happen. But one thing is, the most important thing is we need the fans. And without the fans behind the sporting products, that's where we're going to fall a little bit flat. So we need to make sure that we're constantly engaging fans, because the fans are the ones that watch the TV, to make sure we get that viewership, to make sure that we just keep people interacting. And I'm glad that Mark actually brought up the whole athlete behind it, so the athletes sell themselves in a better light, and we use them to commercialize and get that engagement going. Maybe we can look at getting that athlete to fan conversation going a little bit better, and to bridge that gap and give consumers something different to look forward to, from a different angle, just to keep it fresh and keep it innovative as long as we can.
Yeah. I have with me Ray Langa, Mike Sharman, and John Villers, different MDs of Levergy as well as Match Kit and Nielsen Sports South Africa. We are discussing the business of sport rather today, and of course we know that it's been quite a difficult period, at least the last 12 months, for sport in general, and we continue with our discussion on how to adapt sport to this new normal of COVID-19. This is Inside Sports. Stay with us.